Hi everyone. I just wanted to make this video, as you can tell by the title, just to kind of share my story really. Um, it's one of those, I don't have a channel, I've never really made YouTube videos before. I have one video on this channel, if you can call it a channel, and that's from when I was about, God, 19. So the main reason I wanted to make this video is because when I went through a miscarriage, I turned to YouTube and watched a lot of videos, and I'm still watching them now. And also I looked online and read a lot on forums and things like that. So I found that watching the videos and reading other people's stories really helped me, and I wanted to kind of make a video myself to share my story. I wanted to make one as well that kind of told my story from a UK perspective, because a lot of the videos I found, they were a lot of American videos, and a lot of ladies that were sharing the story were American. And you know, I still really enjoyed those videos, but I couldn't find a lot to relate to, because I think obviously in the UK we have the NHS, and in America it's privatised. So I think a lot of the things that happened with the other ladies' miscarriages were handled a bit differently as they would have been handled in the UK. So anyway, that's kind of why I'm doing this video. If I give you a bit of background into my life, I live in Wales in the UK. I am 32 years old. I have one child who is 8. He was 8 in May. My husband has a daughter who is also 8, they're very close in age, and we got married in November, just gone. Back, I'm actually reading off a list of things, so that's why I keep looking down. Back in July, I would say it was probably about just under 2 years ago, not July, I would say August time, I found out I was pregnant, and that was not planned. It was very much a surprise, and due to, I think I was a bit rubbish with my pill at that time, so that's what happens. I found out towards the end of August, beginning of September. You know, I was pleased. You know, it's not the end of the world. We'd been together a while, and you know, we have a house together and stuff like that. We weren't married at that time. So I thought, okay, we can get to sort this out. Well, this will be good news. I think probably a few weeks after I found out I was pregnant, I was in work and I started having spotting. Now, I panicked, as most people do. Phoned the midwife, they arranged a scan, but the scan wasn't until Monday. This was the Thursday. So they spent the whole weekend kind of worrying, was everything gonna be okay? I should say that, so spotting on Thursday, the bleeding got a lot worse on the Friday, and I mean like a lot worse. Like I was having low back pain, quite a lot of bleeding, some clots came out, and I kind of thought, this is not good. So, but you know, when you haven't been told anything, you hope for the best. So fast forward to the Monday, went for a scan, they were like, look, no, there's nothing there. I was tested negative on a pregnancy test by that time, so I don't know whether it was chemical pregnancy or a, I don't know, really early and like a missed one where things kind of started off but then took a while to kind of clear. I don't know. So gutted, as you can imagine, really upset. Obviously at that point no one, hardly anyone knew. It was only me and my husband and one of my friends, and my no one knew that, just them. So at that point, obviously this wasn't planned. We decided not to try again. I really wanted to try again, but my husband, now husband, didn't want to at all. And that was really hard, because I think anyone that's been in this position knows if you have miscarriage, all you want to do is try again. And you just want to be pregnant again and have that feeling. But it wasn't to be at that point. It did cause a lot of problems in our relationship for a little while, and in the end I just let it go and we got over it. So fast forward to November, we got married. We went on honeymoon, and January rolled around, February rolled around, and we did have this conversation where, I said, look, you know, I really wanted to try. And that feeling of wanting to try and have a baby never went away from at that point. It was always there, but obviously it wasn't the right time. So my husband said at the time, like back in February, he wasn't really that ready to do it now, which wasn't really what I wanted to hear, as you can imagine, going through that and then waiting and kind of thinking, right, here we go. So a bit of an argument about it. I won't go into detail because it's kind of irrelevant right now, but we eventually came to the kind of agreement that, yeah, okay, look, we will try. He understood where I was coming from. You know, there was no reason not to at the time. You know, financially, our relationship wise, we just got married, so we did. So February, tried, nothing. At that point, I'm very new to the TTC thing. Obviously, when I fell pregnant with my son, that was not planned, and the previous time with that was not planned. So this time, when you actually want to be pregnant, I spent a lot of time reading online, and I did actually buy ovulation strips. So I used those, what they call internet GPs, the green ones. I can't remember what they're called. Where are they? Those. One step. So I think the months, so the February I didn't get pregnant, the March I think was unsuccessful, and then I started doing the strips and I kind of caught ovulation. Prior to that I was just using apps and they were just not right because my cycle was longer and that type of thing. So on the in April then I think I got pregnant, and you know, at that point I was like, yes. Haven't been trying for very long. It worked, you know, the first month I really tried it to work, wanted it to work. So I found out, I would say I started testing really early, which I wouldn't do now, with those, again, those strips, with the HCG ones. I think it was towards the end of April, would have been, yeah, end of April. I was getting very faint positives. So we went away for the weekend to Harry Potter World with the kids, and I just knew then. I woke up and I always felt sick from like the morning to the night, and I had the whole boob changes and that type of thing. So I came home on the Monday and I tested and it was a proper positive, and they just kept getting darker and darker. So I told my husband, he was pleased, great. Now I am, as in general, one of these people that always thinks the worst, and obviously from before when I had the miscarriage, even before I had the miscarriage with him, with that baby, even with my son, I was very paranoid about these things because I'm a nurse and I previously worked in A&E, and I've seen a lot of bad things and a lot of pregnancy related things going wrong, and I'm always very kind of, I've seen the worst in situations and things that people can have happen to them, so I'm always very, probably more negative than I should be. But so for the previous pregnancy I was a bit like, oh, this isn't great, I'm always going to worry, rightly so. And this pregnancy I was very much, even more so, worried that something was going to go wrong. My husband was very much opposite of me. He was just saying, it's going to be fine, it's all fine, why are you being so mental, you know, why are you worrying about things, it's not going to happen again. But that's him, and I think, which I will talk about later, that I think a lot of men do have to take that role and say, yes, everything's fine, to reassure you, because if they were as bad as you, or he was as bad as me worrying about things, I probably would have been worse. So anyway, so yeah, found out I was pregnant. Week by week went past. I saw the midwife at 8 weeks. I was having loads of symptoms that got worse. I had really bad morning sickness, which was like day sickness really, because it started in the morning and stayed till I went to sleep. I wasn't vomiting, but you know, like so nauseous that throughout the day, and just felt rubbish. I was quite tired. I had the boobs, you know, they hurt. I wouldn't say I had many food aversions. I had cravings, like I wanted carbs and bread, and who doesn't, but I really wanted that type of thing. Yeah, I felt completely different to that pregnancy, and to be fair, I felt completely different to the pregnancy with my son, which was, I had no morning sickness, nothing at all, and the only thing I had with him was sore boobs. So, you know, if you looked at that, I probably would have had even less symptoms. Saw the midwife twice actually. I saw the midwife at 8 weeks and then she came out at 9+ weeks to do the home visit, because that's what they do here. They see you in the doctor's surgery and then they do a home visit, which is like booking, I'm not sure. Anyway, she gives us all your details and stuff like that. And I don't know what it was. I saw her and I've been reading a lot online about miscarriage, because that's me. I like to research things and make myself more scared. I read a bit about miscarriage and I thought, my God, that's awful. You know, you don't know and you think everything's fine. And obviously up to this point, I had no bleeding, no pain, nothing. Symptoms were up there, great. Something, I don't know what it was, whether it was intuition or whatever, but I thought I want to book a scan. So I booked a scan, private one, and again, my husband thought I was being really over the top. But anyway, we went Saturday, it was a Sunday afternoon, it was Sunday, I don't know the date, I would have been 9 weeks and 2 days. Went for a scan, which I will point out, the scan place is in Mothercare, which is like a big shopping thing for babies, which not a great place to have a scan, but we went, everything was fine, absolutely fine. I had an abdominal scan, baby was there, it was measuring, 9 weeks 2 days, there was a heartbeat, you know, great. But one thing I did ask, which obviously I've been doing my research about miscarriage, is I asked the speed of the heartbeat, and she said, well, we don't do that, we just see the heartbeats there and we just confirm it. Now that to me, I was a bit like, well, that would have made me feel better, because what I've read is that speed of the heartbeat can kind of indicate if there's problems ahead. So if it was slow, it could indicate miscarriage. So, you know, I did have some reassurance, but not that much. And that was the whole point of me going, was because I wanted to be reassured. And they gave us a picture, you know, it was fine, a nice experience. But for that week after, got to 10 weeks, I was just thinking, I wish I want to know the heartbeat. And their website actually did specifically say heartbeat measurement. So I emailed and essentially complained, because I said, look, I've paid for this experience and it wasn't cheap, it was £90. Paid for this experience, I haven't really had the peace of mind that I would have wanted from this scan. What are you going to do about it, essentially? They apologised and they said, oh, okay, we actually realised that our website, the way it was worded, was misleading. So we're going to change the website. Thank you for letting us know about that. Wish you all the best in your pregnancy. And I was a bit thought, well, if something's not right enough for you to change the whole website, you know, you could at least offer me something. So I emailed back and I was like, look, I either want a refund or I want another scan, please, in a nice, polite way. So they said, yes, you can have the scan. So we are now at, so the Wednesday of the following week. So I would be of 10 plus 4 days. So they arranged a scan for the Friday, which was 2 days away. But my husband was flying to Scotland on Thursday morning for a wedding, and I was due to fly out on the Friday evening to join him for the wedding on Saturday. So he couldn't attend, and we kind of thought, well, we might as well go for the scan because we're not going to have time because we're going on holiday as well, and I would have had my 12-week scan soon anyway. So we agreed that I would go on my own. And I would just like to point out, although I had some little bit of reassurance from that previous scan, I wasn't like, oh my God, home free, this baby's coming. I was as nervous as I would have been before, probably. So we agreed. Friday came around, I went to work, took a half day, I went to the scan, and my husband actually messaged me and said before, literally as I was going in, are you excited? And I said, no. I am not excited. I am never excited for scans, because that's the truth, because you never know what's going to be there or not there. So went to the scan and she put the scanner on my stomach, and just to point out, I should have been 11 weeks. You know, that's, the baby's going to be a decent size. Should have been. She put the scanner on my stomach and she must have had it on there for like less than a minute, and she said, I need to use the other scanner, the transvaginal one. And I knew then something was wrong, because there's no way you have a scan at 9 weeks, 2 weeks ago, where they can use the abdominal scan and everything, they can see the baby, and then to go 2 weeks ahead and then say, actually, we need to use a different one. So I was panicked, as you did, and I said, why, is there something wrong? And she's just like, oh, we would just need to, sometimes the positioning, sometimes this, sometimes that. Go to the toilet, empty bladder, come back and we'll do it. Okay, got up, went to the toilet, started crying. Came back, she did the scan, which, what I will tell you is, transvaginal is, it's like a wand. It's probably about that big with like a handle. They put a cover over it, obviously, and it's probably about that wide. It's not big. My friend who had this before referred to it as a white willy. And yeah, so they get you to take your bottoms off and they inserted it in there. And she, obviously the screen is like here and you can't see anything, it's just there. And those of you that have been through this will know exactly what I mean when I say this. The sound of her clicking on the machine is the worst thing in the whole world, because they're just silent. She was just silent, and it was just like click, 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 click. And I know they're doing measurements, but when you're lying there, my heart's pounding now because I'm remembering it, just thinking, what is going on? And I asked her like 3 times. I was like, what's going on? Can you tell me? Is there something happened? Is it bad? Wouldn't tell me anything. She said, I just need to finish the scan, you know, there we are. And I think, and I've heard a lot of people say this as well, that section of time is like the last section where you're still at that side of being pregnant, where you are kind of, no one's told you anything's gone wrong yet. Even though I knew deep down there was something wrong, no one had kind of said, right, that's something wrong here. And I think obviously that my previous miscarriage, I had that whole weekend where no one had told me anything was wrong, even though I knew it, but it wasn't until that person in that scan room said, look, you know, no. So she finished the scan and I sat up and I said, what's going on? And she said, okay, I can't find a heartbeat. And also the baby's only measuring 7 + 3, which, yeah, says it all. I said to her, well, why is that? Because it was measuring 9 plus dead on. She said, oh, well, it looks like things are starting to shrink down, which she kind of actually, I think she actually made this kind of gesture. So obviously I was really upset and couldn't really take in what they were saying. She had to repeat it twice, really, because she said, you need to phone the doctor. And I very stupidly said, well, I'm not gonna be able to get a doctor's appointment today because it's Friday and everyone knows what it's like to get an appointment with a doctor even on a Monday morning. So she said, well, you just need to go. And I was like, well, I'm not just going to turn up my GP. So I said, I'll phone my midwife. She's like, yeah, fine. So I've never wanted to get out of there so fast in my entire life. It was horrific. And I was still kind of like, this is surreal. It feels like it's a dream. And I don't know if people, if you've been through miscarriage, you would know, but any kind of bereavement or anything, it's like reality is here and you're kind of floating around thinking, is this real? Like, have I just experienced this? Has this actually just happened? Because in your mind you think, right, okay, I should be lying on that bed and she should have gone on my stomach and there'd be an 11-week baby and it's fabulous and here's your picture, off you go, I'm gonna go to Scotland. But no, because that side of things is gone. That door shut right there, and now I'm walking through a separate one. Got outside, I texted my husband and I said there's no heartbeat, and he was just like, replied like, what? He phoned me and I explained, you know, I didn't know what to say. What do you say? Like, you don't know. I mean, you just tell them. And he was gutted and I was gutted. So I phoned the midwife, couldn't get hold of it, my midwife. So I phoned the on-call number, left a message, and then kind of just drove home. Got home and sat in my bedroom and went on my phone and started Googling and reading and stuff. And then the midwife phoned me back and she tried to arrange a scan that day, but I didn't expect that because it was Friday afternoon. They arranged a scan then for the Monday, morning, just to kind of confirm things, because apparently if you have a private scan, the NHS won't don't acknowledge it, and they kind of say, right, well, we need to do our own one. And they did actually say to me that they might have to do two, which to kind of get their own baseline. So say if they did a scan and it looked like the baby was too early, like, you know, obviously if it's like really early, they can't see things, they would need to wait a week and come back and re-scan me. And I thought, oh my God, please don't do that to me. But she did mention that. So I then spoke to my actual midwife, and she was very nice, and everyone's very nice about it. My husband said he was coming home, booked a flight, and he was due back later that evening. And I didn't really talk to anyone else at that point. I just kind of, and that's when I started looking on YouTube, and that's when I started watching videos about people who had been through this. So I picked him up later on that evening, and I think I've had this feeling a lot, and I get, maybe it's just a lot of the way I deal with things, but I was really angry. Like, I think I just wanted someone to blame, and I was so angry and upset that I picked him up and I just barely spoke to him, which is, looking back, I feel terrible for doing that. But I was angry at him because, not really angry, but just resentful. Sorry, I just got a message. Resentful of him saying, sorry, and again, him saying that everything would be fine. His like kind of blind faith that everything would be okay, and it wasn't. And I actually said to him in the car, when he got in the car, sometimes everything isn't okay. Sometimes everything isn't fine. And this is what I said at the beginning of the video, you know, if he hadn't have been trying to reassure me, God knows I would have been like, well, why aren't you so sure about this, or are you so unsure? And he can't win, really, bless him. Which I think a lot of people that have been through this as well, their partners really do get it in the neck, and he certainly has got it, so bless him for taking it. That weekend was, I don't know, I kind of just dropped off the face of the earth, really. I deleted my WhatsApp, I deleted my Instagram, I didn't speak to anyone, and especially that Friday, I just was gone. Don't want to talk to you. My husband was barely had a few words with me. I then, the next morning, and this is what I think about, hurts me about the way I was to him. I was just like so angry and so just a big ball of emotion and horrible feeling. He said to me, he was like, it's not my fault, mind. And I just knew, I was like, I know it's not your fault, and I am sorry the way I've acted. And from that point, I kind of did calm down in a sense that where I wasn't so angry towards him, and I just kind of thought, you know, he's probably really upset. And being like this to him isn't going to make anything better. So that weekend was actually quite nice in a really, really weird way, because we just enjoyed each other's company, and, you know, we were both upset, but we tried to kind of make each other happy. I don't know, we just sat around and watched films and TV, and we watched films we hadn't watched in years, and I didn't want to go anywhere because obviously people thought we were in Scotland, and I hadn't told anyone that we weren't going. Well, he had told his friends when, obviously the wedding was for his side of his friends. He had to tell the people what happened, because he couldn't just kind of go, all right, bye, I gotta go. So he had told a few people. Well, I am friendly with one of his partner's friends, and he did text me, and I was just like, didn't reply. But it was very sweet of him to text me. So as much as I didn't want people to know, he had to tell his friends, which, okay, I can deal with that. But the following day, on the Saturday, obviously my friends, two of my friends, are very concerned, because I always speak to them, and they were like, where are you? Like, why? And they text me, and my husband, and one of them texted me, and I just replied, I said, look, you know, my phone's broken, my internet's not working, which, you know, yeah, okay, maybe you should tell someone, but I just didn't want to. I didn't want to kind of have to type it out in a message. And then my other friend texted me, and she said, what's happened? I spoke to blah, 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 my husband's best friend's partner. He said that you didn't turn up to Scotland. So obviously they knew something happened, and that really upset me, because I just wanted to have that privacy from having to kind of explain myself, and really upset me, and I was actually, surprise, surprise, really angry about it. So I did have a bit of a go at it, but whether it was just me being irrational, I don't know. I mean, if I think about it now, I'm still a bit cheesed off, but I don't know. So I just didn't tell them. I spoke very, I didn't say much to them, you know, and obviously they were kind of asking what happened, but I was like, I don't want to speak to you, so that's that. I'm rambling a bit now, and this video is 25 minutes long already, but there we go. Monday morning, we went to, I should say, my son came home on the Sunday night. I picked him up from my mum's. Didn't say anything, didn't say anyone. They all thought we'd been to Scotland. Monday morning, went to EPU in the local hospital, and they did me another scan, another transvaginal one, which is just what you want. They said the same, baby was the same size, I couldn't find a heartbeat. I should say at this point that I can talk about this like I am now, like smiling and stuff like that, and that's not a reflection on how I'm not upset, because I really, really am. I just wanted to do this video so much. I don't want to kind of sit here and cry about it. I wanted to kind of be strong and show, you know, you can come through this and talk about it like I am. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know, this is not me coming and saying this, talking to everyone here is not a reflection on, you know, how upset I am. I'm devastated, which I will talk about at the end of the video. So rewind to Monday. Yes, so they did the scan. So before you have the scan, they take you in and they take history, which I gave her. They didn't want to see any of the reports I had. Oh yeah, the private scans, they give you photos, and they also give you a report. So in the other scan I had, I did have photos, which I still have, and they did give me a report, and then this time they just sent me a report, and I think they sent me 2 photos, which I don't really know why I'd want that, but some people do. So I printed them out, and they didn't want to see them in EPU, because again, they're like, oh no, private stuff, no, we don't want to know, do our own report. So they take you in, give a history, they take you for the scan, and then they come back in and they see you again. And then she said, right, well, you have 3 options. Your expected management, which is let nature take its course, which I was not going to do, because let's be honest, this baby has not been alive for 2 weeks inside me, roughly 2 weeks, I don't know. And I've had no symptoms. In fact, I still have the same amount of symptoms, so I don't think that's gonna, God knows how long it would take for that to happen. Second one is the medical management, which is when you use a tablet, which I'm assuming is very similar to when they induce you, but don't quote me on that. At the time where I was seeing that they were doing a research program where they were trialing the medical management of the miscarriage, where normally they would just give you the tablets, insert the tablets, but previously they used to do the tablets, insert the tablets, and give you a tablet by mouth. So the trial they were doing now was going back to the old way where they were doing 2, so the tablet by mouth, tablet up there. But wasn't interested in that, because I've read a lot about how, oh my god, I read a lot about how it could be quite traumatic and a lot of bleeding, a lot of pain, and it could go on for quite a long period of time. So again, and everything I say in this video was my personal preference. I'm just telling you how I felt about things, and obviously the research I did. So I went for the surgical route, and they obviously tell you all about the risks and stuff, about how it can perforate things and your uterus and the risk of general anaesthetic. But there we go. I was like, no, surgical management. That is because I could not go through any more trauma. I couldn't really put myself through, you know, like bleeding and pain and seeing something come out. I was happy to go for the general anaesthetic, knock me out, and that's that. So they booked me in for the Wednesday, which was a bit concerning because we were flying to Lanzarote on Thursday morning. And we were meant to be going up to the airport on Wednesday evening, but couldn't be helped really. I didn't really want to risk just leaving it until the following week, because if I started to miscarry when we were on holiday, that would be really not good because we were taking our children. So I just thought, go for it on Wednesday, we're gonna have to risk it, just see what happens. So they booked me in for the Wednesday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate video about that day, like I think it's called ERPC, so like a DNC, so the surgical management, where I kind of will go through that whole day and talk about everything that happened, rather than doing it, because like I said, this video is really long already. But what I will say is that day, I'm glad I made that choice. I'm glad I chose that option, but it was a hard day. I was very, very upset during a certain window in that day when they were doing all their like assessments and stuff. I could not stop crying, and again, I was a bit of a bitch to my husband. Oh bless again. But you know, it went as well as possible. We were able to go on holiday that evening. I got in the car and we went straight up to the airport to stay overnight, and then the next morning we flew. So, and I am really happy that we did have a holiday and we did go, because it was kind of a really good distraction for me to kind of think and be away from home and away from all the reminders of what had happened here, and just kind of enjoy, because I mean, you know, it was a holiday with the children and it was a really nice hotel and it's time to spend with my husband. I think during that holiday I was like a bit up and down. We did have a bit of a row, I think, midway through, because I felt like he wasn't really that bothered, which kind of was a bit cruel to say, but you know, when men, they're not very good at showing their emotions, and I just kind of felt like, well, are you bothered? Is this, you know, are you just kind of going through the motions for me, or anyway. And he obviously said, no, we're just different in how we deal with things, and I want to be strong for you, which is very kind. But apart from that, you know, I was okay-ish. I mean, what I've been trying to not do is say to myself, I would have been so many weeks pregnant by now. So when we were on holiday, it would have been 12. I was trying not to do that, because there's no point in doing that, because you're not, and you are essentially, which is one of the horrible parts, back to square one, and comparing yourself to what was happening before it's not fair on me. Well, obviously this is my experience, but I'm not going to go further down the line and think, oh, I would have been 20 weeks, I would have been XYZ weeks, or I would have been, this would be my due date. I mean, I'm going to be aware when it's my due date, but I'm not dwelling on those things. I'm going to try and just draw a line under that pregnancy as much as possible. I hope that makes sense. So after the ERPC, you do have bleeding, and again, I'll talk about that in the other video, but you do bleed, and I didn't have anything, you know, anything excessive. I was able to put a bather on when we were there, and I think I only had some bleeding for about 2 days afterwards. And we did, while we were there, TTC, which was fine, and we were both kind of happy to do that, and probably me more than him, because I wanted to feel normal again, and I wanted to kind of feel like I was trying to get back to trying again. I don't know how to describe that. I'm looking down my piece of paper. But it does, and it still does help, because I think when you have a miscarriage, for me anyway, you just want to be pregnant again, and you know, that might not happen straight away, it might not happen for months, but the knowledge of us trying does kind of help with my healing. It feels like I'm actually doing something. So yeah, that's what's happening now. We are still trying. I think that obviously after you have a miscarriage, they do, they tell you a lot of things. When I went into hospital, they didn't tell me anything. They kind of just sent me on my way, probably because I knew I wanted to leave. They didn't really give me any kind of aftercare. They gave me a sheet, but that was about having a general anaesthetic. So I kind of obviously trawled the internet and found that obviously you can try again. You know, there's no reason why. You don't have to wait for a period. They only say about the period to date the pregnancy if you get pregnant again, which to me I was a bit like, well, I don't really care about that. I'll be dated at some point. So I wanted to try straight away, and which we have been. And what was I going to say as well? So obviously when you're pregnant you have HCG levels, and that's what picks up the pregnancy test. So they I read online that they want your HCG to come back down to 0. I did a pregnancy test when I got back the night, and it was faint-ish. I've been doing a nice little thingy. That was the one there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very faint. And then I did one the next morning, which was a little bit stronger. Again, I don't know if you can see that. But then I ran out of HCG tests, and all I have now is the ovulation strips. So I just kept doing those and left it to fate, really. And I think the last thing I want to talk about before I end this super long video was I am, what are we, like day 10 since the ERPC, and we came home from holiday Tuesday night when I did the test, and my husband went back to work on Wednesday. I obviously haven't. And I think Wednesday was a bit of a tough one. Again, I'm going to contradict myself here because I obviously said about not talking about the previous pregnancy. Excuse me. But we went to have this 12-week scan on the Wednesday, and what was kind of a bit of a kick in the face was not having the scan and having to ring the doctor to get a sick paper from work. But there we are. That is the nature of this. So yeah. Yeah, to finish, I mean, like I said, this video has been a lot, obviously just me talking and telling my story, and I hope whoever watches it, if anyone does, if it helps you in any way, I really hope it does. And if you want to message me or leave comments, you know, again, I'm not a YouTuber, I don't have a channel, I don't have like a fancy ring light or anything, I can't, this is just me, I've literally just filmed this on my phone, so it might be a bit rough and ready, but all I wanted to do was talk and tell my story. And like I said, I will do that other video about the ERPC. One other thing, obviously they're trying to conceive again. A lot of people talk about recurrent miscarriages and the investigations. And in Wales and the UK, I think in general, they say now at this point there's only investigation after 3, which is just, I mean, 1 miscarriage is bad enough, but to have to get to 3 to have anything done is not exactly ideal. But I mentioned this when I went to the EPU initially for the scan, and I said, if for a next pregnancy, is there any kind of possibility of having extra scans? And they said yes, but there's a specific, I think it was a consultant that takes an interest in recurrent miscarriages, not just ones over 3, who I can speak to when I find out if and when I'm pregnant again, and they will look at giving me scans. Obviously that's just probably in my health board, but she did mention, the nurse I spoke to, that, or midwife, I'm not sure what she was, you can rewind, they are bringing in new guidelines, nice guidelines, which are like standards that they use, where there will be investigations offered. The sun is now coming out and this video is going to be all funny. They're bringing new guidelines out that anything to recurrent miscarriages, they will offer investigations, and those investigations usually are bloods to do with your clotting. I think it was definitely that. I'm not sure about chromosomal testing because I think that's quite expensive, but something I need to do is really, I wanted to speak to my GP about that and kind of use my information to tell them about it. So I haven't got around to doing that yet, and I probably will do it next week. But what I will do in this video is link that bit of research or the guidelines that are coming in below, and if anyone wants to use them, then by all means. So I think that's about it for this video. because the light has gone funny, and just wanted to say thank you, whoever watches this, thank you for taking time to listen to my story, and I really do hope it brings anyone comfort. Okay?